If you guys need coins for the new Fut birthday promo, make sure you check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're very fast, they're very cheap, they're very reliable, and if you use my code Rema, you can get yourself a nice 5% discount. So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day so far. In today's video guys, I've got some updated custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-4-2 formation, one of the most balanced formations in FIFA 23. But just before we get into today's video guys, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up, as that does really help me out with the YouTube search algorithm. Also subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, let's get right into today's video. Okay guys, so starting off with the custom tactics. For the defensive style, I like to have this on balanced. This is so we have the greatest control over our defense, where we're able to press when we need to press and we're able to drop off and be more conservative when we need to be. So it does give us the very much needed balance and control, especially against those higher end opponents. Now moving on to the defensive width guys, I like to have this on about 47. This is so we can primarily defend in a narrow shape, but at the same time we've still got the natural width to cover the wide areas if somebody does try and attack down the wing. So that's why we have the width on 47. Now moving on to the depth, in this 4-4-2 formation I do like to have the depth a little bit lower because I do view it as more of a defensive formation at times. So I have the depth on 55 so we can, you know, sit a little bit deeper than in other formations, but at the same time we're not too deep to the point where we're getting pinned back, and sometimes we can win the ball higher up the pitch as well. So it is nice and balanced. Now moving on to build-up play guys, I do suggest you have this on balance. This is because it is the most suited for all types of FIFA 23 gameplay you might experience, whether that is fast gameplay, slow gameplay, laggy gameplay, all sorts, you know. Balanced is the most suited for all of them. Something like fast build-up works very well when the gameplay is quick, but it very rarely is, which is why I do suggest balanced. Now moving on to chance creation, very rarely I will use forward runs, and this is one of the formations in which I do actually quite like it. The reason I like it is because it allows your players to push further into your opponent's half, which is very useful when the right mid and left mid can be very static in this formation without this instruction. So I do really like forward runs with the 4-4-2. That being said, if you want to go ahead and use direct passing, which is obviously the most meta option in the game, then you can feel free to use that. But I actually do quite like forward runs in this formation. Now moving on to the attacking width guys, I have this on 50. This is bang in the middle. This is so we've got a nice balanced width. I don't want the width to be too high, otherwise it feels like our players are too far apart from each other and it can be difficult to get any attacks going. Similarly, I don't like the width too low, as it feels like your players are sat on top of each other and you're not really using this formation to its strengths. Now moving on to players in box guys, I like to have this on 6. This is so we can get some players into the box to create chances, of course, but at the same time we don't overcommit the entire team to the point where we get counter attack. So it is nice and balanced. As for corners and free kicks, we have these both on 1 because there is a corner kick routine that I use which requires me to have these both on 1. There is a link to that in the top right hand corner of the screen. Now moving on to the players you want to use guys, in the 2 striker positions I do suggest you go for a bit of a balance where you have one more creative striker and then like a more finisher striker right next to him. It's just so we have like a creative finisher dynamic, which works very nicely because you can get the most variety in your attacks. If you use 2 out and out strikers all the time, you might find it a little bit one dimensional, and similarly if you use 2 creative players you might find it difficult to finish any chances. So I do suggest going for a balance between the 2, but that is completely up to you. As for the right mid and the left mid, you're going to want to use good winger style players. These are players with pace, skills, passing ability, dribbling ability, shooting ability, basically very good in their all-round attacking game. You're not going to want to use somebody that is slow and clunky in these positions because you might find it difficult to get the most out of these players basically. Now moving on to the left centre mid, we use a more defensive midfielder. This is somebody that's going to stay back and break up the play and add defensive support to the team. The ideal work rate for this position would be a medium-high work rate, so you do get the maximum contribution in defense and the player is not too bothered about attacking. But don't worry too much about the work rate if you can't get it, just go for a nice defensive midfielder. Now moving on to the right centre mid, I do suggest a more box-to-box midfielder. This is somebody that is going to attack and defend in this formation, so you're going to want somebody with very nice balanced stats, and if you can get it, a high work rate is super beneficial as you get the maximum contribution out of this player in their attack and defense. But again, don't stress too much about the work rates, just go for a nice well-rounded box-to-box card. Now moving on to the fullbacks, I like to have a bit of a balance between the two, where I have Roberto Carlos, who's a bit more attacking minded, has a bit more technical ability on the ball, and then I have Cafu, who's a bit more defensively sound but maybe lacks a bit, you know, on the ball. So I just like to have that balance between the two fullbacks, but you guys can do whatever you want there. As for the centre backs and the goalkeeper, these just need to be as meta as you can get them, and there's not too much to say about them. Now moving on to the player instructions, guys, on both the strikers I like to have them on stay central. This is so they always stay in the central areas and don't bother to drift off to the wings. This is super important because as they are strikers, they do need to be in those central areas and we don't want them drifting off out of position. I actually have them both on mixed attack because I think it is much better for the build-up play in this formation. If you have them on both on getting behind, it can make it very one-dimensional at times, and I don't really like that. We've already got forward runs to push them further anyway, so having them on getting behind is a little bit unnecessary. Sorry, I can't really speak at the moment. Moving on to the left mid and the right mid, we have them on comeback on defense, getting behind and get into the box for cross. Now the reason we have them on comeback on defense is because it makes them sit in a better position when we are defending. So honestly, it just makes it a bit better when we do actually get the ball back because they're going to be closer to the rest of the team. If you have them on basic defensive support, sometimes it can feel a bit like a 4-2-4 when you're defending, and that is not ideal. So it's mainly just for the positioning of the players, which we have them on comeback on defense. As for support runs, we have them on getting behind because unlike the strikers, we do constantly want these players to be running down the sidelines and utilizing their pace to create as many chances as possible. Getting behind allows us to do that. Now we also have them both on get into the box for cross. The reason for this is it makes them do the transitional runs into the penalty area when we are in the penalty box with, let's say, our strikers. If you have them on balance crossing runs, they can be a little bit static and they won't really get involved. So get into the box for cross means we're going to have more attacking options in the penalty area. Now moving on to the left centre mid, the more defensive midfielder, we have them on stay back while attacking and cover centre. We have them on stay back. This is pretty self-explanatory because they are the more defensive player, so we do want them to stay back and add security. Since they mainly, you know, focus on their defensive game, there's not much point in having them commit to the attack because their attacking stats aren't that good. We also have him on cover center, so he is covering those central areas because we don't need him covering the wings, as we already have two players on this side, those being Di Maria and Roberto Carlos. Now moving on to the right centre mid, the more box-to-box style midfielder, we have him on default settings and cover center. Now we have him on default settings because we want him to have a bit of freedom in this team. We want him to be able to attack and defend, so we don't want to restrict this player all that much. The only important thing is that we have him on cover center, so he does cover the central areas when he is defending, because again, like Jorginho, we don't need this player to cover the wings, as we've already got Chiesa and Cafu on this side. Now for both the fullbacks, I actually have them on stay back while attacking. The reason I do this is because I mainly commit my fullbacks forward when we're using a more narrow formation, because we use the fullbacks to add extra width to the team. In a formation like the 4-4-2, we already have decent width with the right mid and the left mid, so there is not much need to commit the fullbacks forward. So it's better to have them on stay back while default. This is because obviously we add more defensive security, and let's say I do want to trigger a run forward with them, we can just tap L1 on the controller to send them forward. So both fullbacks stay back while attacking. As for the centre backs and the goalkeeper, we just have these on default settings. We do not touch them. But yeah guys, they're my custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-4-2 formation. If you guys have enjoyed or found this useful, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when the video is posted. And with all that aside guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.